Praise the Lord, saints. I've been wanting to talk about this for a little while, but I wanted to make sure I present it carefully. Mainly because I've been telling the saints of God, and I still feel this way, that in our speaking of politics and things that are taking place within our political structure, especially in these United States, that we should be careful to make sure that we present what the Word of God says and not be so infected by what takes place with Democrats and Republicans and others of that particular ilk, that we should be cognizant of what the Lord wants, not what a particular party wants. And I still feel that way. I still feel that way. The problem, to me, though, is that when we expect our leaders to tell the truth, and they don't, then it makes it much less viable for us to follow their policies. The only way that we even stay and not try to vote is because we have to adhere to the laws of the land, even if the people who lead us don't necessarily follow that. And we have an obligation as saints of God to be good citizens. Not because we are trying to push forth a particular party, but because the Lord calls upon us to be good citizens, to obey them that rule over us. That's not just about pastors and subsequent bishops and so on. It's also about governors and mayors and, yes, presidents. But just because we follow the law doesn't mean we can't call a spade a spade. Doesn't mean that we can't tell someone to listen to what this particular person says, because what they're saying isn't right. And right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about our president. And yes, all politicians do lie. Well, the vast majority of them. I won't say all of them, but the vast majority do lie. So it's not something that's unusual. They lie because they want to be able to attract the most people possible to vote for them. And I get it, I understand it. I don't always like it, but I understand why they do it. See, remember, understanding does not mean I'm condoning it. I just understand the reasons why, but that does not mean that I want them to lie. Because to me, then you are running for office on a falsehood. But our president, and let's say it right out, he has lied so many times about so many things that if you continue to think he's telling the truth, then you're deluding yourself. Because he doesn't. And that's one of the things he spoke of when he wasn't president. That telling the truth is something that he just doesn't do. So you don't know what to believe. That's how he got over in business. Not necessarily because he was the greatest businessman, or he had more smarts than anyone in terms of knowing how economically things were going to turn and follow the trends and so on. But he learned two things. He learned, number one, market yourself. And he's done an excellent job in marketing himself. And when you market yourself, then people will believe, or some at least will believe, in you, even though you may not be telling the truth. But it's your brand. And you show yourself as this very successful person. And if you identify with that, then I may be successful as well. It may not be true. In many cases, it's false. But that's the idea. But the American people deserve to be told the truth about various circumstances, various situations that we have found ourselves in. And it can't be strung along all this time and then to blame certain groups because they are not like you. They don't speak like you. They don't look like you. But you don't mind that because you're in power, and the main thing is for you to get a scapegoat, to blame the problems of this country on. And that has happened before. And many people have been slaughtered because of scapegoating. You blame people not because it's true, but because you want to instill fear so you can keep the agenda going and be able to put all of your problems, all of your fears, all of your issues and put it on an easily blamed group, which is what has been taking place. Yes, this country has been divided before. Otherwise, we wouldn't have fought the Civil War. That was an extreme example of it. But the division has always been there. But now it's even more so. In fact, I actually find it very strange that there are people that really will transcend race, culture, groupthink, to reach across the aisle to embrace others. And I'm very heartened by that, but also pretty surprised because of the amount of racism, the amount of classism, the amount of religious animosity has been shown. How many people tend to believe it? But I spoke here about essentially, let's get back to lying. I'm going to give you a specific example. There are others, but specific examples so that you understand where I'm coming from. So I'm not just talking off the top of my head. Several months ago, the U.S. and Israel began to bomb Iran. And there were at least two reasons that were given. Number one was regime change. We wanted to change the regime. So we went after top officials in the Iranian government as well as the Ayatollah. Actually killed the Ayatollah. I didn't think that was going to ever happen, but we actually got to the Ayatollah. As well as to take away the possibility of Iran building a nuclear weapon. He said that they were weeks from obtaining, weeks from being able to install a nuclear weapon. Not realizing, though, that it takes some pretty good engineering to take fusion material, highly enriched uranium, place it in a warhead, and allow it to do what it needs to do, which is to hit against each other and release this massive amount of energy. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of technology, lots of skill to do that. You just don't, oh, we got fission, we have enriched uranium, oh, we got a bomb with it in the next month or so. It doesn't work that way. You have to have the know-how to make it operational, to start the chain reaction that will lead to a thermonuclear explosion. And you have to get it to that particular place anyway. You have to get it from here to there, to your intended target. Doesn't happen within a month. But enough of a scare took place that essentially we said, okay, fine. They were that close. Then it says we obliterated it. Obliterate means you wiped it off where it's nothing. It means that if you get it again, it's going to take years and years and years, possibly decades. Let me get to that very point again. Much more to get to a place whereas you are putting it in a nuclear-tipped missile to then send off to whatever place you want to send off to. And it must be strong enough to get all the way from Iran to the United States. Took years for the same thing to get, as North Korea now has those type of weapons. But it took years for them to get that way. Because they had all these tests, and these tests, some were successful, many were not. So they'd be reliable enough that you can count on them to get from Korea to the Western United States, at least. Even more so to get from Korea to Washington, D.C. So Iran wasn't even there yet. But we said, okay. Then he kept bombing. Because they said, oh, wait a minute. There's some that are left. I thought you said that they were obliterated. Well, no, they're underground. They kept it. But then you were so upset when someone said, is there a possibility that the nuclear material may not be obliterated? You got very upset and started calling folks names. But then you talk as if no one has said anything about it, that essentially you have seen these materials, they're now held underground. Didn't say that before. So you get the information, so you get my doubts now. Because you say one thing and you're clear about one thing, now you backtrack, go and say something else, and you got mad at the people who said that was a possibility before. So these are the things that get me. And then when you say, okay, we're trying to get them not to proliferate, not to rebuild their nuclear system. We have to make sure that there are people that are watching this and making sure that they're not going that direction. Wasn't this what we supposedly had when a certain president was already here? And they had made these negotiations to do exactly that. To keep this country from making nuclear weapons. Yes, they can have enriched uranium, but there's a certain amount that you have that can be used for industry. It doesn't have to be so enriched. But that's a question. We have that. We should have that. But how can we think of being able to tell the truth on something when we've been told one thing versus another, and then one seems to go completely against what we said before? But we want virtually the same exact agreement that we had in our hands. We had it in our hands. But you tore up that agreement because it was made by a particular president that came before you. And then that becomes very problematic. Because you then feel as if nobody's remembered this. So the key is that if you don't say it, then it must not be true. And that's not correct. We're looking at everybody, not just you. Looking at everyone and everything that's being said. So, what is it? And the thing is, then you bring up this argument that if someone gets upset because the prices that we have experienced now are going up, way up, people can't get to work anymore because their gas prices are at least 20 to 50% higher than they were before, and threatening to go higher than that. Because before this war, there was no toll, there was no tax, there was no fee on the Strait of Hormuz that ships can go in there as they please. But now you want, because you know you're not going to get a free pass anymore. So now you accept a toll fee. Wasn't there before all this took place. And now you're mad at your partner Israel. Because Israel wants you to bomb the living daylights out of Iran. And you're saying, well, I got to listen to my people. They're saying, I don't want to do this anymore. The question really, after all this is said and done, what's the truth? Speak the truth. The truth doesn't change from time to time. The truth doesn't alter itself from week to week. It stays the same. Now, you may change it a little by your actions, but then that truth should be easily followed. Was the nuclear material obliterated? No, it really wasn't. We did lots of damage to it, but there may be some happening. That was actually what was said by our intelligence agencies. And you told them no. So disregard the intelligence agencies that we pay for them to do their job. But no, because it doesn't agree with me. This happened several times. This has to stop. Again, regardless of who you vote for, you have to hold our leaders accountable for what they say and what they do. Because if you don't, then all you are going to be is like sheep, going from one place to another. As long as they help you, you're fine. You don't care about anyone else. Sheep go here, sheep go here, sheep go here. And you end up in a situation where you will be very surprised and shocked at the damage that has taken place. All because you won't hearken to just having someone tell the truth. We will respect you more if you just tell the truth. tell the truth. You don't have to. See, last thing. Our government had lied before. It's lied before about weapons of mass destruction. That it was said that we have proof of weapons of mass destruction, and found out we didn't have any proof. We just wanted to go to war in order to get rid of this particular person. Didn't do that. Say you want to get rid of the Ayatollah. May not agree with you, but at least you're telling the truth. Don't put essentially that, oh, here's another weapon of mass destruction. They're building a nuclear weapon. Then you get mad if someone is upset with you because the prices have shot up. Because to be honest, you're not the one who's paying for these prices. You ride in limousines, you don't care about the gas prices. You don't care about how much food is, because you get it paid anyway. You're a billionaire. You don't care. But there's people here that are starving. People here that can't go to work. People here that are now pitching pennies because they can't get anything. Everything costs too much. These are the people that you're working for. Being president does not mean you're above everybody. Being president means you are the biggest servant. And that especially goes if you ever thought of this country being a Christian nation. The Christian with the biggest leadership skills is the one who's the greatest servant. That's not happening. That's one reason why you can tell this is not a Christian nation. I don't expect us to get there, but I do expect us to be told the truth. Please tell us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They do that in court. Why can't we, as citizens of the United States, have that same thing? God expects us to tell the truth. If you're a Christian, tell the truth. Otherwise, your works show you exactly who you are. God bless you in Jesus' name.